Okay, welcome everybody to the September 13th meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Education. The board started meeting at approximately 3 p.m. with a tour of this lovely school that we are in today, and that was a wonderful opportunity. We then had 3 work sessions at 4 p.m. We spent half an hour on the working budget. We then spent another half an hour at 4:30 on a new data dashboard that I think we all feel a great deal of optimism about, as it will help us in our oversight of what's going on in the district. And then at 5 o'clock, we spent an hour hearing an update on the student assignment plan and how the schools are implementing it. No action was taken in any of those. So at this point, I want to call the meeting to order and begin with our moment of silence. As we have our moment of silence, I'd like to call to people's attention that since the board last met, 2 former members of this board have passed away, Carl Hines and Michael Wooden, and I would just ask that we remember them in our moment of silence. So thank you, everyone. Thank you. At this point, we are going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be started and delivered by District 1 elementary students. Thank you, students. At this point, our vision statement will be read by students from the ESL Newcomer Academy. Welcome.
Todos los estudiantes de las escuelas de Jefferson County Public School son graduados, preparados, apoderados e inspirados a alcanzar su pleno potencial y contribuir como ciudadanos pensativos, responsables de nuestro mundo diverso que compartimos.
All Jefferson County Public Schools students graduate prepared, empowered, and inspired to reach their full potential and contribute as thoughtful, responsible citizens of our diverse shared world.
Thank you. Muchas gracias. And at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce Vice Chair Diane Porter to deliver, who is the board member for District 1, who will deliver a welcome for us.
Thank you very much. Welcome to Lincoln Performing Arts School. This meeting is being held in the Black Box Theater by design, because if you come to a performing arts school, you need to be in the Black Box Theater. I'm very glad that you're here to see the students that will perform for you tonight. You've heard some students in the lobby, you saw some artists upstairs, so thank you for being here. But I especially want to thank everyone that made this possible. This looks easy, but it's not. So we have a great staff that's always working really hard, and I'm going to call Terry Robinson's name and her crew and our audio crew, everybody that makes this work well. So if we could just give them a round of applause to thank them. I'm going to talk fairly briefly about District 1 because it's about the students and I want you to hear their performances, but a little bit I would like for you to know about District 1. There's a map that's behind me on the screen that shows the schools that are in District 1. And for buildings and programs within the district, there are 20 elementary schools, 5 middle schools, 5 high schools, and 12 buildings with special programs. And special programs could be anything like Jefferson County High School, early childhood centers, or any kind of academic supports. So I'm very proud of each and every building that we have and for all the opportunities that we're able to offer to our students. The next slide is going to show a little bit about the district itself. As it pertains to students that live in this district, District 1, there are 17,352 students. 17,352 students that live in the district. Some of the students attend schools outside the resides area. We have 8,517 students that go to school not in District 1. But every day when we open the doors and the buses come, or the cars come, or however the walkers come, every day in this district there are 18,834 students. 18,834. And I say that to let you know that we are a thriving district with lots of great programs, lots of great students, so there's a lot happening in this district, and I'm very honored to serve as your school board member. This is a special week, primarily because we're here, but before we got here, in 2010, Congress declared this Arts and Education Week. So it's very appropriate that we are here tonight at the Lincoln Performing Arts School because this is Arts and Education Week. Some of our board members and staff, I want to recognize Board Member Horn, who's not here yet. She and Suzanne White are working on an arts master plan for the community, so I just wanted to acknowledge that. Several weeks ago, I was asked to complete a statement. The statement started with 2 words, art is, and I was supposed to fill in the blank, but not make a paragraph. So, in my words, art is a powerful medium to educate, inspire, challenge, and connect ideas. So you think about what art is to you. What does it mean to you? This leads me to introduce an outstanding principal from District 1, an outstanding, awesome district. And I have to say this because ever since I was at the Yum Center, I've been walking under the cloud of Muhammad Ali. So I, of course, will say, and my colleagues will not agree for the moment, that District 1 is the greatest. Because, so I just have to say that. I would not be happy with myself if I could not say that. It's my honor to serve the students, the staff, and the families. And it's my pleasure at this time to introduce an outstanding, awesome principal of the Lincoln Performing Arts School, Susan French Epps.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Diane Porter. And I just want you to know that I agree with what you said about District 1. I am the proud principal here at Lincoln Performing Arts School, Susan French Epps. And on behalf of our entire staff, our students, and our school community, I would like to welcome you to our village, our home away from home for the some 562 students who enter through our doors each and every day. And it would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to thank our board members for the opportunity to host this evening, our JCPS cabinet who are here, and all of your hard work, both noticed and unnoticed, because we know that you are the backbone of what we do. You set the foundation for how schools can move forward. So if I know you're sitting there thinking, this is an amazing school, it's pretty incredible. You're right, and it's made possible because of those that are around us. And I would like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to all of you for what you do to support us. We are in our 8th year of being a performing arts magnet school, which is a pretty cool thing to do. Because of the leadership, our district made that decision to turn our school into a magnet, and we were able to build this amazing facility. You are sitting in the only black box theater in an elementary school in the entire state of Kentucky. We host a state-of-the-art piano lab, 2 dance studios, a band orchestra room, a drama room, and in addition to that, we of course teach all the regular curriculum. There were lots and lots of hours and dollars and resources spent in building our school building, and our facilities are amazing. But what moved our school building into becoming a school community were the hearts and spirits of all those community partners over the past several years who have helped to build our school. Thanks to the partnerships of folks like the Kentucky Center for the Performing Arts, the Louisville Ballet, the Kentucky Opera, Stage One Family Theater, the Fund for the Arts, and many, many more, far too many to mention, our school has gone from dwindling enrollments to jumping off the page when it comes to families wanting to be a part of our community. Our academic achievement has soared. Without those continuing partnerships, those successes for our school would not be possible. This morning, as I was greeting our students, I asked them, what do you want me to tell our guests this evening about what makes our school great? And I got some pretty interesting answers. One of my favorites was, well, because we get to eat round cheese pizza on Friday. And I thought, well, that is pretty cool. We even had it today and it wasn't Friday. But one of my favorite answers was from a kindergarten student that said, Miss French, you just have to tell everybody that this school, and I told her I would do it just the way she did it, rocks. So, my assistant principal, Mr. Ice, you have to go to Mr. Collins' class and tell that student I did it, because she did not believe that I would say that. But in all seriousness, it is such a privilege to serve in this school and to serve our community. And we are building leaders in our community. We are committed to uphold the District Vision 2020 through our words, our actions, our behaviors. And we welcome you to our school, and we commit to making JCPS the best urban district in the nation. So thank you.
I'm just going to say one other thing to Ms. French. There's a real risk to your school here because the acoustics in this room are better than anywhere else we've met by infinity. And I really, really appreciate it. So you may see us again. But thank you. Thank you for hosting us. At this point, it's my pleasure to introduce Ms. Terry Robinson to lead us through recognitions and resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Hargens, Board Chair David Jones Jr., and members of the Jefferson County Board of Education. This evening, we have the distinguished honor of recognizing and receiving student demonstrations from Board District 1 students who will share their talents and skills through vocal and dance performance, as well as through speech by articulating an outstanding attribute about their educational experience at their school. We begin with Lincoln Elementary Performing Arts School students who will demonstrate their creative movement through dance. Students, please come forward to begin your presentation. The students are under the direction of teacher Harlena Chern Diallo. Board Vice Chair Diane Porter and Assistant Superintendent Joe Lefford, please come forward to extend thanks to the Lincoln Elementary students. Joining in the recognition is their teacher, their principal, Susan French Epps, and Assistant Principal Michael Ice. Students, if you'll come here for your photograph. Next, we have the pleasure of hearing the song Circle of Life from The Lion King from an outstanding group of vocally talented students from Western Middle School. Students, will you please come forward to begin your song? Board Vice Chair Diane Porter and Assistant Superintendent Michelle Dillard, please come forward to thank the students for an excellent vocal presentation. Joining in the recognition is their principal, Kim Rice. Now it is my pleasure to introduce to you students who will articulate an outstanding attribute about their educational experience at their school. We will begin with District 1 middle school students. Brown School student Sydney Reynolds, please come forward.
Hi, I'm Sydney Reynolds, and I'm from the J. Graham Brown School. What I enjoy about the Brown Middle School experience is the teachers have enough faith and trust in us to find reasonable solutions to our problems while they are still engaging in them. I also like how the teachers give us a fair time to complete and/or turn in work. The teachers also work hard with us if we don't understand a subject. Our teachers have high expectations. They help us fix behavioral issues and things like that. Our principal also works one-on-one with us if we think there's an issue that could be fixed. She thinks very highly of our beliefs and/or opinions. Our teachers, principal, and peers all work with us very well. I also like our school's location. This is what I enjoy about Brown Middle School. Thank you.
Johnson Traditional Middle School student Ashton Hadaway, please come forward, and we can ask the principals to stand while their students are speaking, please.
Hi, my name is Ashton Hadaway. I'm in 8th grade and I go to Johnson Traditional Middle School. One thing positive about my school is that we have lots of things and activities to get involved in. I am passionate about sports, so I'm on 3 sports teams. I play volleyball, basketball, and soccer. Another thing positive about my school is that my principal a lot of times comes and supports these activities. A lot of times I see her on the sidelines supporting my team. Thank you for this opportunity to let me represent Johnson Traditional Middle School.
No middle school student Olivia Manning, please come forward.
My name is Olivia Manning. I'm 12 years old and I'm a 7th grader at No Middle School. When I was in elementary school, I went to a small nearby county and I felt like the things there, what I really needed wasn't there. There were maybe 10 students in GT in my entire school. And then I went to No, and there were hundreds of students in my grade alone that had the same goals and school-loving mentality as me. And also performing arts. There are so many people in No that believe the same things that I do and really want shows to turn out well. They care. And there are people exactly like me.
Mazik Middle School student Tavon Whitehead, please come forward.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tavon Whitehead. I'm 13. I'm in 8th grade at Mazik Middle School. One coincidence was that I wasn't the only one that went to Mazik Middle School. My parents did too. Today, I would like to talk about our after-school programs at Mazik. We have lots of programs and clubs such as algebra, homework club, basketball, football, and many more like math counts, class, debate club, science olympiad. All of these programs help in your academic grades and your academic classes. Like math counts helps you in math, science olympiad helps in science, homework clubs just gives you a couple extra hours to catch up on some homework. Another one of my favorites is debate club. This club is one of my favorites because 2 people can have a structured argument, and it also helps build a friendship. One particular after-school activity that is very important is football. Football motivates me to do better on the field and in my classes. And the biggest reason I love Mazik, because the teachers and staff do not give up on their students, and they show that they care.
Western Middle School student Meredith Thomas, please come forward.
is Meredith Thomas. I am 13 and I go to Western Middle School and I am an 8th grader. Western Middle School is individuality. Western Middle School is unity. Western Middle School is success, and Western Middle School is extraordinary. At Western Middle School, they offer an amazing and phenomenal academic environment, and it's a place where students can be themselves, and it's a place where students can learn, and it is a place where students can find themselves and build their career and find what they need, because the students, they care for each other, and the teachers, they care for the students so much. And it's an amazing school, and it shows so much love just within the community. And Western Middle School is not only a school, but it is a family, and it is my home.
The Academy at Shawnee student, Ashley Garcia, please come forward.
Hi, I am Ashley Garcia, and I'm in 7th grade. I really like the Academy at Shawnee because it has a really fun way of learning, and you can have so much experience that just can't really tell at all. There are a whole lot of activities and involvement in my school. For example, I'm in band, and there's also choir and art. We have a whole lot of activities like sports and clubs like robotics and engineering, and I really recommend it to anybody who really doesn't know which school they want to go to, because you can learn so much there, and it's really fun.
Vice Chair Diane Porter, Assistant Superintendents Glenn Beatty, Michelle Dillard, Joe Leffert, and Evaluation Transition Coordinator Chris Perkins. Middle school speakers and principals, Dr. Angela Parsons, Beverly Johnson, Chris Burba, Jennifer Cave, Kim Rice, and Vanita Bimbo, please come forward for a group picture. We will now hear from District 1 high school student speakers. Our first speaker is Brown School student Sophie Palmer. Please come forward.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sophia Palmer, and tonight I am representing my fellow students at J. Graham Brown School. As a senior, looking back on my high school career, I am incredibly proud to be a part of the Brown School community. Upon arriving my freshman year, I was immediately encouraged to participate in class discussions on various topics, which range anywhere from sustainable farming methods to the true functionality of a potato clock. At Brown, we are encouraged to investigate and explore new ways of thinking in order to better understand the world we live in. We endeavor to be independent thinkers and learn the benefits of embracing diversity within our school and in our city. The J. Graham Brown School continuously strives to foster these practices in order to educate and inspire the leaders of tomorrow. Thank you.
DuPont Manual High School student Abraham Riedel Masson, please come forward.
Hi, my My name is Abraham Mashan, and I'm a senior at DuPont Manual High School. I would like to start by thanking you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the wonderful educational experience I've had at Manual. The biggest aspect, I would say, that has the most impact on my educational experience are the dedicated teachers and the competitive atmosphere that Manual holds. The teachers at Manual do not see teaching as just a job. They're genuinely excited by teaching in their subject areas. Like Mr. Elsroth, my computer science teacher, who is always available to talk about new technologies or help out with any problem. Or Mr. Swanzik, who breaks his back every year to fund and set up a science fair just for Manual. Or Mr. Purvis, who gives fervent, impassioned speeches about the principles of calculus, sometimes even clothed in knight's armor. But even beyond those and many other wonderful teachers, are students ready and able to latch on and enjoy learning in the process? Students who challenge and support one another to be the best they can be. Students who will go on to the top universities in the country, thanks to the education and rigor they receive from Manual. Once again, I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to speak and for supporting magnet schools like Manual.
The Academy at Shawnee student, Cody Terrence, please come forward.
Good evening. My name's Cody Torrance, and I am from the Academy at Shawnee, and I am a senior. Where do I start? I mean, I love Shawnee. Absolutely, I love it. It offers wonderful programs such as aviation, where students can earn their pilot's license as the 4 years they go there. There's ROTC, the Naval ROTC, that teaches leadership skills and lets students help out in their own community, and engineering as well. And I mean, when people ask me how much I love Shawnee, I tell them this. Every morning I wake up at about 5 o'clock. I ride a bus for an hour and 2 buses just to get to school, and I'm glad to do it every morning because I appreciate everything my school has done for me. Thank you all for coming.
Vice Chair Diane Porter, Assistant Superintendent Joe Leffert, and Evaluation and Transition Coordinator Chris Perkin, high school speakers and principals Dr. Angela Parsons, Raymond Green, Jerry Mays, and Vanita Bimbo, please come forward for group pictures. I'd like to ask all of the parents of these outstanding students to please stand and be recognized. Thank you. And I would also like to ask all the District 1 principals, please stand and be recognized. All District 1 principals. Thank you. We are deeply honored to recognize Kathy and Larry Ologist, owners of these crafts, for their outstanding contribution to the Jefferson County Public School District. Several years ago, they partnered with a local art teacher on the design of a t-shirt that features Louisville scenes, which is sold along with other related items in their store. The goal has been to take the profits from the sales and provide grants to local art teachers to buy art supplies. In this effort, they worked with Melissa Gano, Jefferson County Public Schools art curriculum specialist, to identify 10 schools that will each receive a $500 grant totaling $5,000. The 10 schools are Hazelwood, Roosevelt Perry, Toronto, Kenwood, Camp Taylor, Klondike Lane, Wheatley, Portland, King, and Price Elementary Schools. Dr. Hargens, please join Vice Chair Diane Porter to extend sincere appreciation to Kathyologists. Would you please come forward to be recognized? Family, we are extremely proud to also recognize and thank Henderson Services for its outstanding contribution to Lincoln Elementary Performing Arts School, which has 2 fabulous art pieces, a pink elephant painting and a Brook White glass sculpture hanging in the lobby. To really appreciate both pieces of art after dark, the standard lighting in the lobby was simply not sufficient. Thanks to Bruce Henderson, owner of Henderson Services, and Rob Yates, service manager, the school now has museum quality lights showcasing these 2 wonderful pieces of art. Henderson Services provided the fixtures and the installation at no cost. Dr. Hargens, please join Vice Chairperson Diane Porter, Assistant Superintendent Joe Leffert, Principal Susan French Epps, Assistant Principal Mike Ice to extend sincere appreciation to Mr. Yates representing Henderson Services for their wonderful contribution to Lincoln Elementary School. Now please join me in viewing a video presentation of District 1 schools.
We are so excited today to have 70 third graders here.
It's our whole third grade class from Atkinson. We started opinion writing with our kids, and we decided that we were going to do a restaurant review.
We are at Carter Traditional Elementary today, and this is the Pause with Purpose Rough Readers Reading Dog program.
I like the little dog.
And Fifth Third Bank is providing our Young Bankers Club program for 5th graders here at Englehart.
Kind of the origins, the reason why we do PLCs, because the teachers will be doing this even if we're not here.
We're going to be doing research papers in February.
Jade has been with us since preschool.
I just thought of the kids here at school and I wanted to help them.
We have King Elementary here for a whole week.
We learned about animals like eagles.
And we have a group of about 25 kids that are here.
So I was Miss America last year in 2015. I've already crowned the new Miss America. Okay, here's your part. Because
if you don't have perfect attendance, you won't get your education, and if you don't have an education, you won't be able to get into a good college. If you can't, come to school every day, then how are you going to learn?
We're in Portland Elementary School today. We will be providing a $5,000 volunteer grant check to the Portland Elementary School kids.
We feel important and we helped them a lot. We just wanted to help people. We didn't want recognition or nothing. We just wanted to help them. So.
Congratulations to Mazik Middle School. Another fantastic app concept from 6 of its students, Farm Alarm.
I was thinking about my grandfather when we came up with the idea, and if this app had been created while he was still alive, then it would have greatly helped him.
So what it's doing is it's tracking the wind speed and the temperature, and so what we're going to do is we're going to go out there and see how how Louisville's rising with the urban heat island effect.
Did anyone have
any pictures of what the music could be about.
We practiced with them and they gave us like some pointers on how we could make like things better.
You know, just told us some of their secrets of being a professional and playing like a professional, and it was extremely, it was amazing.
More than 1,200 students gather daily at Central High School to participate in one of their high school magnets.
I'm involved in the Law and Government Magnet because of the different opportunities we're offered.
I've been exposed to science from a young age, but it's really my teachers. I've had really great teachers. My science teacher at school, Mr. Glenn Zwanzig, is phenomenal.
Let's give a shout out to Mr. Glenn Zwanzig. Just want you to know, the student here is shining.
Yeah, I got his fingers here.
We're at the Academy at Shawnee and we learned how to do a formal handshake.
This is the Jobs for Kentucky Graduates program. We just received a grant from GE and Integrity Staffing.
We are in the school of Shawnee, ESL newcomer, and we are celebrating the global homecoming.
Ekachai is one of the best guitarists in the world.
We are at Youth Performing Arts School, and we have Ekachai Jericho. He's an international classical guitar artist, and we're so thrilled to have him here to work with our guitar students today.
The movements of his hands were phenomenal.
Again, can we please give a round of applause for our outstanding District 1 students? Dr. Hargens and members of the Jefferson County Board of Education, this concludes our recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you to the students, to the adults who helped them prepare for that wonderful performance, and to all the other people who made this possible, including Vice Chair Diane Porter for organizing such a wonderful performance and showing off the talent of this part of Louisville, Kentucky. At this point, it is our tradition at the board meeting to invite all students, parents, anybody who has a busy school day tomorrow to take their leave if they would like. They are more than welcome to stay for the business portion of the meeting. I realize that I need to take a motion to receive the recognitions. Diane Porter moves, Chuck Hadaway seconds, all in favor. That passed unanimously. Thank you everyone for being with us tonight, and we'll resume in about 3 minutes, or maybe 5. Spice of life a little bit. Yeah, that was real good. Was it really good? It looked like it was great. I mean, that's really good.
I'm so tired.
Yeah, they run you. They run you. Good. I'm glad you went. All right, let's take our seats and get ready to go on to the business portion of the meeting. That was a wonderful introduction. So the first item is approval of the meeting agenda. Is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda? Okay, Diane moves, Steph seconds, all in favor? Passes unanimously, thank you very much. Next, we have the minutes of the previous meeting, and we have minutes of both August 22 and 23. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Lisa moves, a second. Linda seconds, all in favor? Passes unanimously, thank you very much. Now it's time for the superintendent's report. Dr. Hargens, would you like to give that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair Jones and members of the board, and the opportunity, even after those amazing students, to present the superintendent's report. First, I'd like to also express my appreciation to Vice Chair Porter, Principal Susan French Epson, the Lincoln School family, and of course to Terry Robinson and the JCPS staff who make an off-site meeting happen. It's inspiring to be at District 1 at Lincoln Elementary. An important part of Vision 2020 is authentic assessment. The student demonstrations of learning are just that. The governance of this board, as Susan said, makes this program and learning in District 1 possible. Second, I appreciated the opportunity to participate on the Greater Louisville Inc. Glide trip to Austin for the last 2 days. Austin, as you might know, is one of our benchmark districts. Dr. Michael Razor, Miss Horn, and here she is, and I visited an elementary school, and this is actually Google Fiber, is one of the places we visited. And this is Dr. Paul Cruz, who's the superintendent of Austin Independent Schools, who did a presentation. But we also visited an elementary school that was converted from a factory, I think a light bulb factory, a district performing arts center that the district shares, and we told them we also have a black box theater, and a shared athletic facility complete with an AstroTurf field. Austin is the fastest growing city in the US. What gives Austin its edge? Austin embraces each failure as a step on the way to success. In fact, the mayor of Austin called immediate success suspect. The other element is that Austin wants to be authentically Austin and provide an opportunity for each of its citizens. Another speaker noted that Austinites succeed. When Austinites succeed, Austin succeeds. A thread throughout the trip was the need to keep attracting a talented workforce to Austin. The community also embraces the idea, as we do, that they are educating their way out of poverty. This afternoon at the work session, you heard a budget presentation. Let me put our progress in that regard in a context. The curriculum management audit gave us 10 recommendations that we were to do in order of criticality. The first 3 were create an organizational structure that supports learning, then work on policy development, and finally, align planning. In the center, recommendations 4 through 8 were about creating systems to support learning. Recommendations 9 and 10, that references the budget, were about creating equal access, equitable distribution of resources, and finally, a spending plan aligned to priorities. The collaboration between finance and data management has resulted in a process that analyzes expenditures, both short-term and long-term, to ensure that they are data-driven and aligned with our strategic priorities. You might remember that in Vision 2020, stewardship is a value and also a strategy, 3.1.4. Dr. Dina Dossett provided an overview of the features of the board's data dashboard. The dashboard is designed to provide the board a tool for oversight and to answer the questions: are students coming to school? Are staff attending? Is the environment supportive of learning, or is it being disrupted by learning time due to losing learning time due to behavioral issues? Big picture, the question is, are we maximizing learning time? And that is exactly the right focus of the board. Vision 2020 set forth a goal of expanding access to our public choice system to ensure we are aligned to the values of diversity and choice. Dr. Dossett provided a snapshot of our status in 16-17. 90% of our schools fall within the diversity index. Specific strategies are being developed to work to bring all schools within the diversity index. These strategies, of course, must align with the Magnet Review Committee strategies and the facilities review. In order to have Vision 2020 come alive, we have to engage everyone in the work. Ms. Porter held a community conversation at Foster Elementary. Ms. Horn had a booth community conversation Friday night at Middletown Family Fun Festival. Ms. Duncan had a booth community conversation on Saturday at the Fairdale Fair, and we were conversing in the parade as well. Right, Ms. Duncan? Hope Street Group is a national nonprofit created to expand teacher voice in creating collaborative solutions to educational problems. Hope Street Fellows exist at the national and state level. Kentucky Hope Street Fellows will present the concept as an information item, which is about creating a local teacher fellowship in JCPS. This aligns with the second focus area of Vision 2020, building capacity in teacher leaders. So let's recap quickly where we are on our deliverables in Vision 2020. Thanks to the Deeper Learning Committee, we have a framework and a preliminary definition of deeper learning that can guide our work, and you see it on the screen. We have a revised assessment system. The assessment committee met last week and identified the need to communicate this system directly to teachers with a very consistent message. We are in the process of creating a video to explain it. 20 schools have been added and are in motion building capacity through the Bellarmine Literacy Project. Over 1,000 students benefited from Summer Literacy Boost, and over 1,000 incoming kindergarten students were in kindergarten readiness camps. The Student Voice Project is completed. The goal of that project is to give voice to the experience of our students. So it is an audio tape of the voices of our students. The rollout of these completed audios will happen in the next 2 weeks. Dr. Razor is beginning to form a facilities committee to work to look at the facilities assessment. In addition to our 2 directors, we have a team of 10 resource teachers to assist with the implementation of restorative practices and positive behavior intervention systems. Dr. Katie Zeitz is currently scheduling our district administrative training with the International Institute for Restorative Practices. In addition, we are reaching out to 3 schools to be our lab schools. IIRP training for these schools will begin in the fall and conclude in the early spring. Interested schools will also be able to respond to an RFP-like proposal later this fall for inclusion in the second cohort of 14 restorative practice schools. Our focus is on quality implementation school-wide of these programs, making training dates more of a challenge. We want to ensure that support staff, custodians, food service workers are included, as they are important service providers to our students and partners. Finally, we are committed to including our bus drivers in a portion of the training to bring them aboard as critical members of our school communities. I witnessed last week or the week before 313 Help in Action. The team is beginning to analyze the data, and we should have data soon about the calls that are coming into JCPS. Dr. Dossett spoke about the predictability tool for 17-18 application period for magnets. Dr. Dossett will also begin tracking student mobility for this school year 16-17 per strategy 3.4.5. Mobility is a variable that impacts learning. As you will recall, HR has been in a process of improvement. A critical variable in the success of every child is a great teacher in every classroom. And I'd like to keep giving you an update on our vacancies. On day one, we had 27 vacancies. All classrooms on the first day were covered by a resource teacher, coach, or preferred sub. I meant an instructional coach. 16 vacancies were filled. Today, 11 of those vacancies, unfortunately, still exist in high needs areas like chemistry and math. And unfortunately, we have accrued 26 additional vacancies. So the totals for today are 37 vacancies, 7 in elementary, 10 in middle, and 20 in high. And I will keep you updated on our relentless focus to make sure that all those vacancies are filled as quickly as possible. I would like Chair Jones to pull item 9R from the agenda, from the consent agenda, for further review. And as a teacher, I learned that people remember what you say first and what you say last. So lastly, please join me in remembering those who we lost on 9/11, as that anniversary was Sunday.
Thank you, Dr. Hargens. Are there questions for Dr. Hargens or any comment about that? Lisa?
Covered a lot of ground in that report, Dr. Hargens. I was just going to ask if you could expand a bit on the revised assessment system. Yeah.
Absolutely. We met, Dr. Dossett led the committee work, and it was a group that contained central office personnel and also teachers. Brett McKim is also on that committee. So we came up with a revised assessment system, but what we found when we met was that it wasn't being communicated consistently, so there was some confusion about what you could and couldn't do. So we agreed as a committee that we would produce a video that consistently messaged what the revised assessment system would be, and really encourage teachers to take advantage of the opportunity to do things differently and insert authentic assessments. So that video is, Dr. Branham has a script that everybody's reviewing to make sure that that is the consistent message.
Anyone else? I guess I would follow up on the same topic, and you don't have to answer this right now, but I think this board is going to be interested in understanding how we should both learn about and then monitor the definition of deeper learning, because although I think we all adopted the strategy that had ideas about it, and those on the strategy committee heard from a lot of national experts about it, it's still a somewhat amorphous concept, and I think we would like to be informed about it, and then also need to understand how that interacts, if at all, with ESSA, changing state regulations as we move into the assessment system, and need to think about whether there are policy changes, or at a very minimum, we need to see evidence that the old framework of over multiple choice testing is beginning to give way so that there's time for the new framework. And that's another big mouthful, but tell us what we need to do to monitor that and to get up to speed. All right? Great. Okay, thank you very much. The next item, there are no action items. The next item is an information item about the Hope Street Group, and there are no public speakers on this, so Dr. Hargens, would you like to introduce it?
Actually, I will turn it over to the teacher leaders to describe what it would mean to have Hope Street Fellows, and I'll just say to the board that this is not for approval, this is for information so that you can get a sense of what this concept would mean for Jefferson County Public Schools.
Welcome, and thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having us tonight. We can introduce ourselves.
Hi, my name is Kip Hotman, and I am a Spanish teacher at Fern Creek High School, and honored to be here. Thank you all so much.
And I am Mimi Ratliff. I am a district resource teacher in Area 5, formerly a physical educator at Greenwood Elementary.
I'm Andrew Beaver. I'm a 8th grade math teacher at Olmsted North Middle School.
My name is Stan Torzeski. I'm a social studies teacher at Fern Creek High School. Thank you for having us.
We have one member of our team missing tonight, Allison Hunt, who is a former national fellow is at Manual, and she had prepared a statement. She was going to give an intro, but she had trouble rearranging childcare. So I'm going to read her statement first about her experience as a National Hope Street Teacher Fellow. And I don't know that you guys can see this, so I'm going to kind of flash through this. We
can see it here.
Oh, well, there we go.
That's why we're looking down.
Aha, okay. See, I thought you were looking at our shoes. So Hope Street is a national nonpartisan nonprofit. Our mission is to bring together the best practitioners, business leaders, and government innovators to create collaborative solutions for the most pressing issues. The main 3 topics that Hope Street works on: education, health, and jobs. What a fellow does. We identify the challenges facing our educational system. We ideate the best solutions. We try to figure out a plan to take action. We test how it will work in practice, and then we use that and scale it to lead to transformative change. Now, at the national level, fellows work in tandem with the DOE to look at changes and recommendations that have taken effect over the past 5 years. At the state level, our fellowship began in 2013, and we regularly report to KDE twice a year with survey and data results, which we take from teachers, and we'll cover that a little bit more later. And we are going to try to emulate that at the district level to further engage teachers in using their teacher voice to help you guys and us come together to create some real positive solutions. So we have peer surveys that we do twice a year. We will be having 5 trainings for the fellows that are selected. We will be having virtual engagements every month. It looks kind of a lot like JCPS chat, only more focused. And then we will be making policy recommendations from the data and the authentic input that we gather from teachers and give that to you guys so you can help make informed decisions from what the teachers are facing in their classrooms.
So the goals of the State Teacher Fellows are to collect teacher perception data around district-specific policy topics in order to share and act upon teacher perspectives with shareholders from the broader JCPS learning community. We create communication pathways and systems that allow for face-to-face, virtual, and written engagement throughout JCPS and statewide learning community, and create a culture of deep professional learning for their peers and facilitate the sharing of expertise among all educators in JCPS.
We have a short video, and it kind of explains how our program works. It's not going to work. You can pretend. There was a nice video. I can send you the link. In 2015 and 16, our state fellows held focus groups and data gathering around PGIS usage among teachers, teams of teachers and administrators. We also focused on formal and informal leadership opportunities for teachers and leaders at the district, school, and at the teacher-to-teacher level. We looked at student voice systems that were refining teacher practice, and we allowed teachers to provide actionable feedbacks and how they did to their students. We were also looking at how administrators provide actionable feedback to the teachers in their buildings. We engaged in fall of 15. You can kind of see there's a lot of numbers there. Our numbers are growing. By spring of 2016, we had engaged almost 12,000 teachers in the state, which is around a quarter of the teachers in the state. We had over 18,000 teachers engaged in level 1 activities, which would be a like on Facebook or Twitter. More than 7,000 teachers engaged in level 2 activities, which will be taking part in conversations, sharing out articles, and 1,200 teachers that were actually involved in discussions and meeting with focus groups and talking with other teachers. Almost 12,000 views in the Kentucky Teacher Magazine, over 10,000 Courier Journal readers through the Classroom Connections program. You guys have seen the work of JCPS Forward through our egg camps, through our JCPS chats. Those are informal products of the Hope Street trainings that many of the members have had. Our JCPS chat has become the largest public district chat in the world, regularly reaching over 1 million impressions at any given month. JCPS Forward has now reached almost 18% of the teachers and interacted with 18% of the teachers in the district. And we're getting ready to hold another round of egg camps on the day before Election Day.
The graphic that you see in front of you is a teacher leadership framework. And it was created by Hope Street Group, KDE, and other stakeholders. And it shows the equity of just what is considered true teacher leadership. If you go to the next one for me, Mimi. So to break those pieces of the framework down, leading from the classroom, which would be developing capacities of students and self, leading through modeling and coaching, developing capacities of peers, leading groups and teams, contributing to positive school change to enhance student learning, leading to increased teacher voice and influence, which Hope Street focuses on a great deal, working to enlarge teachers' role in decision-making beyond the classroom and in concert with other stakeholders, leading to professionalized teaching. I'll get back to that in just a second. Reforming educational systems to create greater opportunities for teachers to learn and lead beyond the local level. That is, we're really excited. That's going to come to fruition with an organization known as ESET2, Elevating and Celebrating Effective Teachers in Teaching, and there's a JCPS convening specific that's going to happen in February at the Seelbach Hotel. And the recruitment for that event is rooted in this teacher leadership framework. So we're very excited about that. And then finally, leading to connect the larger community or world, expanding the world of classroom beyond the school.
This graphic shows where the fellows are across the state. You can see that there are former, current, and new fellows. I'm proud that there is a new fellow in my home county of Johnson, which is on that side, 15th region. I just had to throw that in. And we wanted to share a little bit about how Hope Street has impacted our classroom, and so I will read from Allison. Being a national teacher fellow with the Hope Street Group enabled me to understand educational policy, its process, and its influencers firsthand. The Hope Street Fellowship was truly a professional learning community, just on a different scale. As I worked with a talented, motivated group of teachers across the United States, it not only inspired me to continue my journey as a classroom teacher, but also provided me with a wealth of insight into the practices of other teachers, districts, and states. At the time I became a National Teacher Fellow, I was contemplating a move to a position outside the classroom. But the fellowship showed me how to be an educational leader while remaining firmly committed to the classroom. I completed the fellowship reinvigorated with fresh ideas and more committed than ever before to providing the best educational experience possible for my students.
So I'm going to share my story, and I will try to articulate as quick as I can. But I'm super passionate about the Hope Street Group. I need to let you guys know that up front. That completely changed my life as a teacher. Absolutely. I had taught 10 years in the classroom and becoming a fellow in Kentucky when I was with the first cohort in 2013. So we really didn't understand the process up front. We knew this nonpartisan national organization had come to Kentucky and reached out to 21 of us across the state. We knew they were working with KEA, KDE, with all the stakeholders, and Kentucky was the first state they'd come to. And what was going on in Kentucky, you guys need to know, at the teacher leadership level, there was a lot of work happening, and it wasn't connected the way it possibly could be. So Hope Street Group came in to try to connect those teachers across the state and then take their voice and help shape policy in a nonpartisan manner. So we, for me, my beginning PLN, my professional learning network, when they asked me, I was like, oh, it's the teachers across the hall. That was about it. And so, and maybe some downstairs. So I started with a professional learning network of maybe, 10 colleagues for 10 years. And my work was grounded in the classroom. So my role was to raise teacher voice around PGES, and that was all of our role across the state because a lot of teachers didn't know about the new evaluation system and didn't know about the components. And so our goal was to get feedback for KDE. So quickly learned how to network, skills that I had never had before, messaging, how to specifically message. How do you message? How do you reach out to a principal? How do you reach out to a superintendent? A lot of people have questions, why? And they don't want, to see emails. They get tons of emails. How do you engage these people in the specific work? And you get these skills very quick through Hope Street Group. So in the local PLN, how do you engage teachers down the hall or in other buildings? Everybody has so much on their plate. Do they, really want to hear someone else? So you learn the skills on how to network because it's all for the greater good. And always looking for solutions and in order to take that teacher voice and then provide specific feedback. Personally, for me, out of that too, was the learning of how to engage stakeholders beyond the education realm. We went to the Capitol, and I share a personal story because I think if there's any educators in the audience, or usually people can relate better. Went to the Capitol, January 2014, a snow day. Our mentor for the Hope Street Group reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to come for a lesson? At that point in my life, I did not understand the importance of policy and having a voice in policy. They had never taught me that in teacher prep. So 10 years fast forward, never understood, went to the Capitol, and it was a snow day, and there was a bill being introduced called Senate Bill 16. I'm a world language teacher, I'm a Spanish teacher, and the bill was to introduce computer programming as a possible component of the world language realm. So my mentor at the time, Brian Bishop, looked at me and he's like, have you heard of this? And I was like, no. And I had no idea. The senator at the time, David Givens, walked through the door, and Brian Bishop knew him and was like, hey, Senator Givens, this is Kip Hotman. He's a Spanish teacher. And he kind of looked at me and was like, hey, nice to meet you. And we shook hands, and then he proceeded to tell me his wife is a teacher. And, very nice man. We went inside, and in about 7 minutes, he presented Senate Bill 16. It passed unanimously. My mentor looked at me and said, what do you think about your profession changing in 7 minutes? And then I got it. It clicked. Okay, this is important, and I understand why all teachers need to be engaged and the possibility to share their voice if needed. So I went back, but what the Hope Street Group taught me was don't, and get angry and come with emotion. Brian sat down and was like, what can you do with this? How about we reach out and just talk to Senator Givens and get an interview about the possibilities of engaging teachers and legislators in deeper conversation. So I worked hard through some skill training to reach out to Senator Givens, and eventually was able to sit down with him one-on-one for an interview. Learned so much. Awesome man. Went fast forward to this past session when Senate Bill 1 came out. He was one of the sponsors of all the changes in Senate Bill 1. There was a buzz amongst all of the teachers with whom we were engaged. So a couple of us I reached out to him and was like, hey, there are some of us who would, are interested in learning how to message this. Just would like a proactive conversation to hear, you talk about Senate Bill 1 and articulate this to us. So he sat down, met us in Frankfurt for a dinner. Now that never would have happened had I not learned the skills back in 2014, had I not been part of the Hope Street Group. And I equate that all to their training and then all to what they've done for me. So, and I'm sorry, I'll go a little bit quicker. From where I am now, from the beginning PLC of about 10 teachers, my PLC is it's over about 2,000 teachers. I was able to interact with an organization called the Center for Teaching Quality and do some become a virtual community organizer for them for some online collegial conversation. I became a member of the Gates Teaching Advisory Council, headed out to Seattle twice a year for the past 2 years to provide them feedback for their investments. Became a community manager of the Redesign Challenge in Savenzo. online manager for Teacher to Teacher for it's a community of teachers and educators across the country. Worked with ESET, which Stan described earlier as a lead, and now I'm a social media national consultant for the Hope Street Group, engaging teachers in Hawaii, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Tennessee. I do not say this for you guys, like for any, I don't need acknowledgement. I'm not even worried about that. The reason I say this is because now I may not have the answer, but I can find the person who does. And that's what Hope Street Group has done for me. I have the connections. My PLN is vast enough where if somebody has a question about all the realms, math, science, or whatever, I know who to connect them with typically. And if not, I'll reach out to Mimi. But so that was what they did for me. And I leave with this, with a conversation we had with Felicia Cummings-Smith a couple years ago with Hope Street Group. She was an associate commissioner to Terry Holliday. And she said to us, she said that, she goes, you know, she was at KDE at the time. She said, well, we will listen to the voice of 10 teachers, or we'll listen to the voice of 10,000 teachers. It just depends on who engages us. And it stuck with me. And I realized that Hope Street Group was the way to connect teachers, in this case, JCPS, 7,000 teachers. You know, the more heads together, the better the solutions. And it all comes down with that teacher voice to the classroom. It all comes down to the kids. And that is exactly why we are in the profession. So I say that because I'm super passionate for my work. And I equate all of this that has happened to me from the Hope Street Group. I'll stop there. Thank you. Oh, and sorry, this what I discussed was definitely with Vision 2020. With respect to that, I know we definitely need to mention that was, you know, all of the work improving culture and climate, which strategy 2.1.3. And then listening and responding to stakeholders, okay, which strategy 3.2.4. So I want to make sure I included that too. Thank you all.
And so Kip touched on many of my experiences with the Hope Street Group, and specifically the importance of the Professional Learning Network and getting to engage with teachers from across the state. I've had opportunities to network with teachers and go to professional learnings on things like standard-based grading and being a Common Core advocate that I wouldn't have had if I didn't have that network that I got through Hope Street Group. Hope Street Group internally has taught me a lot on how to engage teachers. We do focus groups, as we mentioned, twice a year, and being able to learn how to implement those and how to question teachers and be solutions driven. So if a teacher is frustrated, you're not just agreeing with their complaints, you're saying, well, what can we do to change that? You know, how can we come to the table and create a solution? We've recently been in Chicago doing Learning Forward professional development on how to design professional development and learning different learning styles. What this has done for me is bring it all back to my school and to my professional networks within my school. It's helped me cultivate growth mindsets within my PLCs because we're no longer a PLC where one person is leading. We're a community of leaders, and we make sure we're engaging everyone in our PLC. It's helped me lead professional developments within my school and understand how to do that. And also I'm involved in JCPS Voice and working on, as the Vision 2020 says, improving kind of the infrastructure under strategy 3.1.3 of engaging teachers through continuous virtual learning within JCPS.
I'll be brief. I believe in the power of student voice. I believe in the power of relationships. This fellowship has afforded me, apologize for my P's, this fellowship has afforded me the leadership opportunities to promote both. I've been in education for 13 years. About half of that time I spent as an administrator. Found my way back to the classroom. I miss the kids. I miss the light bulbs. I have a unique perspective. I believe that there should be an avenue between admin and the classroom. Some people are wired to where they're charged by those light bulbs, by those relationships with kids. I'm one of those people. And the fellowship is kind of that avenue for me. It's given me the tools, networking tools, many of the tools Kip mentioned. It's allowed me to, really in terms of leadership and engaging others, it prepared me more than my tenure and my preparation for administration. It's allowed me to put students at the forefront. My fellowship, they give you the option really to shape your own fellowship. And for me, I've driven student voice. I've taken students to the Capitol to interview senators. I have developed connections with groups such as the Pritchard Committee Student Voice Team and worked on legislation that impacts students in the state at large. It connects with Vision 2020 with standards 1.1.1, broader definition of learning, project-based learning. I believe that education needs to change. We need to focus on project-based learning through student passions. I've developed an initiative known as LIFT JCPS, which is being embraced by the board and Dr. Donna Hargans through her Superintendent Student Advisory Council, which our first meeting is tomorrow. We're ecstatic about that, where students from each high school will come in and work on their passions and work on project-based learning. It also connects with Strategy 2.24, which is developing leaders. And that's with our peer networks, relationships with other teachers, and that's also with the students which we serve. And teaching them how to network, teaching them how to build communities and relationships with people, not just their teachers, not just administrators, but people in the community, and to make real differences. Thank you.
So they put me last. One of the things that I wanted to drive home about the Hope Street Group is the capacity to build a different style of professional learning community that can, I like to call them diagonal PLCs. In the traditional PLC that we have at school, you have those horizontal and those vertical. Your principal puts you on this, your assistant principal puts you here. You're going by team, you're going by subject, and one of the things that the Hope Street Group allows its fellows to do and cultivate and teach them how to lead is a diagonal PLC, where folks from around the district, the state, the country, the world can come together over a shared topic and give it any level, can hop on and hop off at any time. And that is how teachers can authentically learn from each other, not limited to the boundaries of their school or the boundaries of their district. So one of the things that I have learned as a fellow is how to better engage. Believe it or not, I could engage before I became a fellow, but I have honed my skills and become more effective at being a better listener and trying to gather what teachers across the district and across the state are wanting to share, and then give that back to district leaders and state leaders. That's strategy 3.2.4, listen to shareholders. But it's about the culture that Hope Street creates, the decision-making process, the creating the expertise, the helping teachers learn how to share their expertise. There was an article in CNN that I shared with Dr. Hargans. 9% of what is shared out from inside the classroom comes from teachers themselves. So what better way to engage our teachers is to get them to learn how to share out what's going on in their classrooms more effectively. As for the deeper learning that we're also engaged in, we will be able to embed the professional learning into our trainings and be able to have our fellows take that back into their schools and help the peers in their buildings and their administrators bring that back into every JCPS classroom. Adult setting, building mastery of content, applying critical thinking and problem-solving skills, and collaboration, and most importantly, self-directed learning. It creates an educator who is more willing to take charge of their own possibilities. So we are very excited at the prospect of being able to create the first local fellowship within JCPS. I'd like to especially thank those of you that have been involved with all of the JCPS Forward work for over the past year, that have taken parts in chats and come to egg camps and reached out and come to our events. And it is because of the district leadership that we are able to be as successful as we were in an informal manner. So we like to pat ourselves on the back when you think about teacher voice within the district. This takes that to a formal level and gives us the trainings to be able to train more folks to help you guys create some positive systemic change.
Thank you. Would you like to take some questions, comments?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Board members have any questions or comments? Chuck?
First off, thank you for what you do. And I want to say one thing that I really appreciate is the tags to the Vision 2020. That is key, and we like to define everything we do by that, so thank you for referencing that throughout. I appreciate the positivity that I have had in engagement with you guys, for sure. Gives me a lot of hope for what happens in the classroom. I would ask that, can you tell me how would this help in teacher retention? And how would it help in district morale? And then lastly, I want to know, does this embellish current PLCs? Does it redefine them? Does it replace them?
I think it's a great question. To start with in many ways, a classroom teacher can feel very isolated sometimes. They're with the kids and, 6 hours out of their 7-hour day, whatever. And you only interact with other adults for maybe an hour a week in your PLC after school. So just creating those networks, as Kip mentioned, with his just exploded over the course of his fellowship. And it really creates sort of a shared vision of what you're doing. You're not on an island, you're not isolated. And it really, really connects you to people who are doing what you're doing, who are fighting the good fight, whether it's in your school, whether it's in your district, whether it's in your state, and across the nation. With regard to PLCs, you want to take PLCs?
Well, I was going to piggyback on what you're saying. I'm going to give a specific example. Okay, so after becoming a fellow and local PLN started growing, I had a lesson in my classroom at the time that crashed and burned. It was bad. I thought it was fabulous, but first block didn't think so. And so after it crashed and burned, I had I think a 5-minute window. And so I was greeting next class, and it was a quick virtual connection with 2 teacher leaders that I'd met specifically within the fellowship. Quick question, help me, blah, 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 blah. 2 responses, with a tweak in the technology that I was using, changed it, 3rd block, smooth sailing. 10 years in the classroom, that had happened in my first 10 years. Never would I wouldn't have known what to do until the end of the day, when after crying big tears, maybe reaching out to my PLN across the hall, but on the spot feedback. It was amazing.
Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to add to the retention part. And I've seen that when you give teachers leadership, they're more likely to stay. And Olmsted North is proof of that, where 2 years ago we had 25 teachers leave and 25 K-tippers, and this year we had 1 new teacher in the whole building, and that's because at our school our principal has fostered leadership with the teachers, and that's what we're trying to do across the district. Is if teachers have that voice, they're going to more likely value the work and want to stay on.
That's a good answer. That was about what I was going to say. As to the PLCs, by no means do we want to replace the PLC. We would like to make other options that can enhance the work that's going on in the buildings. Those horizontal and those vertical PLCs are always going to be there, and they're going to be at each school, and those drive learning. But there are educators out there that also like to engage in different ways, in ways that may not be in their building. They may, for example, I'm a physical educator. Our PLCs, we had 10 different teachers from 10 different schools, and we met once a month. And not everyone has that. I could be an English teacher in my own school that does not get a chance to really interact with other educators in my content at the same area. And the Hope Street group affords the opportunity for the fellows to better engage different teachers, better engage different sets of content area. And we pride ourselves in being fair and equal to all, and being positive. It doesn't matter if you are a new teacher or a tenured teacher or you've been in education for 25 years. All teachers have the same amount of voice. And one of the things that is easy to say sometimes happens in JCPS is we have some disenchanted educators that may feel like they don't have an authentic means of expressing themselves. And this gives educators a way to give input on topics that fellows and district leaders can decide on together, and give teachers ways to report to you and give you an idea of true, deep happenings within each school by the ability of the fellows to engage across the district and then report those things back to you.
Mimi, is it leadership? Is it structure that makes it? I mean, I think all of us can understand the values of good networking and how that could transfer and connect the dots down to our students' learning. But as Hope Street Group, where do you continue to make it productive? Because every time I hear about it or talk about it, it's a productive, positive thing. So we could all use a crying on the shoulders or big tears at sometimes, but how is it leadership, or is it the structure, or is it both? Is it the training? Why does it stay, from what I've seen so far, very positive and productive for teachers?
So I think
let's keep the answer brief, and we're going to.
Okay. I'll brief. I would say it stays positive and productive is specifically because immediately it's the focus on solutions. If it's like, I mean, we can all agree on A and B. What about C? And you know, working together to focus on those solutions keeps that conversation positive, and you avoid those emotions that kind of come with that negative conversation. That would be my immediate quick response.
It allows you to connect the dots. I think you can see, instead of from A to B, you can see how A connects to B, connects to C. And that's empowering as an educator, and that's also can be very useful for district leaders to know that they can go to folks with trainings that can be able to gather that input.
Steph?
Thank you.
I very much enjoyed.
Pull it toward you. Yeah, there you go. Now you're on. Tap it. Yeah.
You broke it.
I have very much enjoyed connecting in the virtual engagement world with you all, and learned a lot. And doing those virtual chats was something I hadn't done. And it's so great to go back and look at those, and you can scroll through all these comments. So it's been really good source of information for me, what's going on in the classroom, what the discussion is in all the different areas. So that's been really good. What I'm interested in knowing is just how this relates, supplements, or conflicts with like the teachers union. You know, how does this relate to the teachers union?
So our Vice President from Education, Dan Cruz, our National Education Director, Brian Bishop, our State Director, Brad Clark, and I met with Brent McKim and Alan Young, and we talked about how the fellowship could be open for any educator. So it will be open for union members, for non-union members. If I apply, or if you were to apply, the scoring will be done. There will be a written application, and folks from the district would not know if an applicant is a union member or a non-union member until the recommendations came all the way back to the district. So it's completely open. We have a process where we will begin to push out applications and ask every administrator to push them out, ask the district communications department to push them out. Dr. Hargens is going to push them out. We hope you guys can push them out. And we are going to try to reach all 6,700 educators to try to give everyone a fair shot to apply.
Yeah, and just beyond just how you're chosen, though, if you're looking at the four main things as peer surveys, virtual engagement, convenings, and better education policy, how does it relate to supplement or conflict with like the work? Like, so if you're working on better education policy, are you going to come in with a different voice if you're a union member than you're, you know what I mean? How is it gonna conflict at times? I mean, what should our expectation be? Is this just supplement? You know, what?
I would think it would supplement anything that's going on, because I like to say we try to be Switzerland. So we would work to find a survey topic and some focus group questions that will be applicable to all. So we gather input from several different stakeholders on what those questions and survey focus group topics will be. So we would gather input from the teachers union, we would gather input from assistant superintendents, from curriculum instruction, and from all of you to create those.
Other questions, comments? Lisa?
Well, I have I have several questions, but a really fundamental one. This is an information item, so I guess I'm not entirely clear what's being asked of the board. Is this something that's ultimately going to come to the board for approval of some sort?
So information items are not necessarily any of that. They can be, but they're reports that help us understand what's going on, I think, right?
That's right.
Frank? Yeah.
So first of all, thank you for your enthusiasm and your passion, and I've enjoyed the Ed Chats, and I loved coming to the Ed Camp in the summer and seeing teachers, teaching teachers. That was very inspiring. And I'll also say on a personal note, both of my children benefited from Allison Hunt's fantastic teaching, and she was talking about being an administrator at the time, and if this kept her in the classroom for more students to benefit, that's obviously a very positive thing. So I do have some questions, I guess, in terms of the coherence. I know that's been a big theme for the district, is the coherence, and if there are teachers being selected for fellowships from external groups and you're being encouraged to do surveys and so forth, then how does that fit with the data we're accustomed to seeing, like the Comprehensive School Survey and the TEL survey, and we already talk about survey fatigue and how meaningful are these surveys, and so I wonder just about sort of a fragmentation. I wonder, you've talked about PGIS, but we've actually adopted the Educator Growth System and the EQUOC Committee, which is, or EQUOC, which is a variation of PGIS. So I just wonder how all the pieces fit together in some sort of a coherent way. Does that make sense?
Yes, I guess. The topics can be anything from the use of technology in the school. It could be how effective are the professional learning committees in your school. It can be any topic that the fellows and district leaders could decide upon. So if there were, in 2 years, let's say, if there were, or next year, if there were an issue that had come up with the implementation of the deeper learning work, we could create a survey tool and some focus groups to look at how that is impacting. And focus groups are a very small group of folks that sit around a set of 5 to 6 questions. There's a note taker, and the teachers can actually anonymously give input on that. And then we can bring that back to you. We have an external evaluations team that gathers all the data that we would then present to the board. So the surveys and the focus groups can be chosen more freely than, say, a TEL survey or the comprehensive survey.
Chris?
I want to echo some of what Member Horn had said about the chats that you've been doing. I haven't joined into the chats, but I have, because usually I'm dealing with trying to get kids to do homework and bedtime and all that. But I do go back and review those, and it's very insightful to be able to see that, to see the discussions going on, occasionally see what Board Member Hadaway has to say, because he does join those chats very often. But so I think there's some really good things that, when you talk about having a chance at an extended professional learning community and, the shoulder to cry on and whatnot. I think those are really good positive things here. I do have some of the concerns that's been echoed by some of my colleagues of seeming that there is, a bit of overlap, because the EQUOC committee kind of deals with PGES, and you're saying you kind of deal with PGES. So I'm like, in regards to Lisa's concern, what's the coherence on that? But I also have another concern, and this really kind of affects the national organization, not necessarily what we're doing here, and that's the concerning of how Hope Street Group is actually funded. The funders for Hope Street Group, a fair amount of them, such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Foundation for Excellence in Education, New Venture Fund, are very major players within the charter school movement. That goes against the legislative priorities and the viewpoint of this board. We are in a non-charter state, and in just the view of this board, that we want to keep that way, because it seems to be that once charters comes in, it's never about charters until it's about charters, and then it's always about charters. That's the saying that I keep hearing. And we want to be able to keep the focus on student achievement rather than having to deal with this. Now, it is something we have to deal with. It is a legislative issue. It's out there in the state. So my concern about this is, and what I've gotten feedback from some of my constituents, is that Hope Street Group could be a Trojan horse for introducing charter viewpoints, charter support within the district. I know that this is an unfair question because you're dealing with this on a local level, but it is something that I have a concern about. So how do you answer that concern, or can you?
You've been in longer than me. I have been a Hope Street Fellow now 18 months, and I've never had any dealings with even the mention of a charter school or any inkling of a charter school agenda. And that's my only experience. I've done, Kip and I were on the Teacher Engagement Council with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and we had no dealings with it then either. So in my experience, and it's just limited to me, but we were just with all of the fellows in Chicago, there was no mention of charter schools. And I completely understand where you're coming from. But in my experience, and I don't know.
Since 2013, nothing, never mentioned.
Okay.
And that was up front, was the main thing, for us, was the nonpartisan. It was just the focus on solutions and not trying to, because a lot of people would ask, what's your agenda? What's your agenda? And at this point, from starting in 2013, it wasn't an agenda. The point was to engage our colleagues and try to provide voice behind what best practice looks like from the teacher, from the classroom, in order to help KDE make decisions around what was being implemented. With respect to PGES, like Mimi said, that was just the focus then. In 2013, the focus, like Mimi said, with working with you all, working with stakeholders, working with teachers, working with the fellows to create what does the district need? What do you guys need information and feedback from teachers on to better JCPS for the students? And I'll say, like with respect to the nonpartisan, I know that kind of my mentor, our first state director, Brian Bishop, talked about, that was one of the reasons when Hope Street came to Kentucky, because all of the stakeholders, Pritchard, KEA, Hope Street, KD, they were all worked together in looking at solutions, and there wasn't any kind of agenda amongst any of that conversation. So that, that's the feedback I would give you guys there.
I mean,
Okay,
the main
thanks.
agenda that we've all had is just try to work
Let's
for
move on.
teachers.
We got to keep the
Sure.
agenda going. Are there other topics or other questions that anybody wants to bring up here? Okay, well, I'd like to thank you very much. I am especially encouraged by the work that's been done to connect with other teachers on problem-solving basis across the state and beyond the state. The loneliness of the teacher that you described, hits home really well. And goodness knows, JCPS needs to have a lot more different connections within the state so that we can have a better sense of, they can understand what we're doing and we can understand what they're doing. So really appreciate what you're working on here, and thank you for reporting to us.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, we need to vote to receive this presentation. Is there such a motion? I'll move it. Is there a second? Diane seconds. All in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item is the consent calendar. Dr. Hargens has previously recommended the adoption of the consent calendar with the removal of item 9R, with the deferral, I guess, until a later time of 9R. Mr. Brady wants to call down item 9H, and with those two items removed, is there a motion to adopt the rest of the consent calendar? Linda moves, Lisa seconds, all in favor? Passes unanimously. Okay, let's move on then to item H, approval of professional services contracts of $5,000 or more. Mr. Brady, you asked for this to be pulled down.
Yes, thank you, Chair Jones. My concern about this, and we can talk, I'm not sure who would be the appropriate person to respond to this, but my concern has to deal with the contracts regarding the Street Academy. We have had in the past, and I've expressed concern in the past about the program. I know originally that we were not really reaching a significant amount of students. That a lot of students didn't have regular attendance regarding this particular program. So it's something that, that I know that when we redesigned the program, or went through a redesign, I guess over a year ago, it was designed to have more student involvement. I believe the last year we had 101 applicants, and I believe there was around maybe like 96 or so regular attendees, if memory serves. The concern I have about this is that now we're getting information that even though the part of the primary focus of the Street Academy was to increase literacy levels, as measured by the statewide reading test, we're now being told that we're going to not really look at K-Prep scores, and also that one of the other focuses is to expand achievement. We did a program evaluation that we received last year about that, but the program evaluation at the time that we received it didn't really give a recommendation as to whether or not the program should be continued or not. And part of that was we wanted to wait till after the K-Prep scores came out and see what the scoring was. My understanding is that the scoring that came back from a reading proficiency standpoint really wasn't statistically relevant or significant. Everything pretty much stayed the same, stayed, equal. There was some positives in the fact that these students attended school more. There were positives in the fact that these students were less likely to be suspended. So those are certainly positives in the program. But my concern is that with this last year, with the information that we got, that even though the contract is for a minimum of 25 students per location, there's 4 locations, so it should be 100 students, there was less than that, I believe around 91 that were considered regularly attending students. The greater concern I have about this is that if it's a great program, I would like to see, especially that attendance level, continue to rise through the years, not go the other way. And also, if we're doing something that is statistically insignificant as far as the main goal of the program for reading proficiency, and there is positives, I'm not saying there's not, but if the main goal is this, then is there something we need to be doing to either tweak this program? Do we need to spend more on it? Or do we need to take a look at another program? This particular target audience is critical to being able to get effective support, because these students need extra supports. There's great obstacles that are in their way. My concern is this the right program? That's my question.
Is that a question?
Or does it need to be tweaked?
Okay, so I think we met before. I've been at the Urban League as president. It'll be a year, actually, October the 1st. My understanding is, and first of all, I want to thank you all for allowing us to be here, and thank you, sir, for the question. My understanding is that there are 102 boys in the program, and the goal is around 100, and that doesn't mean that we can't increase. You're right, we certainly could do that. As it relates to data collection, just to be quite frank and very honest about it, some of the information has been challenging to get as far as K-Prep information, so it's been very hard to measure success in that vein. That's what I'm being told by staff. But there are, to your point, lots of other great things that are happening with these young boys and men. And so I think we do have to think about that. What I think is important also is while we are trying to make sure that we are measuring reading and all that comprehension, doing what we're supposed to do, making sure that the program is actually moving the needle for these young people, I also want to focus in on the behavior components of this as well. I don't think, and it's interesting because I think when the Hope group just presented, they talked about, being present. One of the kids today said, how can you learn? I think it was on the video, how can you learn if you're not there? I don't think we can minimize that. I don't think necessarily that we are able to measure when a student comes into us and says that my mother committed suicide. That's happened since I've been at the Urban League. My father died. That's happened since I've been there. The sexual abuse that we have had to report. So there are lots of things that are happening with these young people. So we do think Street Academy is the right program. We understand the question about data, and that is something we're working on. We've actually hired a chief program officer. But the other part of that is we've got to work with JCPS to make sure that we're measuring the appropriate things that will show the movement of the needle. So if we are not actually measuring the right thing, that's just not helpful to us. And so we're sort of working through that, to be quite frank with you. But it is not something that we take for granted, nor do we think it is statistically insignificant. Because if your kids aren't present, they're not going to be able to learn, they're not going to be able to read, they're not going to be able to achieve. And so I think Street Academy is a phenomenal program, and I think you should continue to invest in it, and we should hope and help it to grow.
Okay, Steph?
When I was in Austin, they talked a lot about social emotional growth. And my understanding is that this program is directly tied to growth in the social emotional realm. Can you explain a little bit more about what that means? You know, just give us an idea what this program is doing to reach that, you know.
Well, again, I think the issue is somehow helping our young people to develop other skills in order to, you know, conflict resolution, for example, or how they're dealing with what I call ongoing traumatic stress disorder. When you live in a community where you're constantly under siege and surrounded by lots of hopelessness. Unfortunately, our young people have to be resilient, and yes, some of that you're born with, but some of that you do develop. And so in Street Academy, when those young people are doing, you know, Tai Chi or whatever, they're not doing Tai Chi. What is it that they're doing? Martial arts, okay. Because I'm thinking about older people, I'm sorry. But, I mean, the point is to give them some other outlet, some other way to deal with those emotions, to deal with some of what is happening, you know, so that when they come to school, they can learn, they can be effective. And the other part of it is so that they're not disrupting. The other thing that we cannot minimize is the relationship. Some of the information that we learn from these young people that they are happy to tell us, I mean, definitely sad and emotionally drained by it, but it's because of the relationships that have been developed, and I don't think those things can be minimized, and sometimes, unfortunately, not measured very well.
Okay.
So I will jump in and talk about the impact that the teachers have had on the students. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah, John.
Okay. The impact that the teachers have had on the students. Sadiqa spoke to it well. The teachers are sometimes not the teachers that the child has during the day, but the students are ambitious and willing to come there and be a part of it. And we're talking about, under the leadership of President Reynolds, we're talking about the Street Academies in the Zones of Hope, where all things red that were on that chart with our 1 point whatever diversity index, that's where the Street Academy is. And the Street Academy has been going on for 15-something years, and we've brought it to scale. It's about 102 to 90-something, and the students are performing. So, well, not performing, the students are behaving better. Yeah. The students are showing up. The students like it. Along with that, there is other things that's going on with the social emotional. You will see that their behavior has went down. And if we stop there, if we're serious about suspensions, if we stop there, maybe it's a conversation to have, what if that was it? Is that enough? The child said you're not learning if you're not in school. Suspensions went down for these students.
But can I just say this, though? We do understand, and we will not create any program or support any program at the Louisville Urban League that does not help close the achievement gap. We are just not interested in doing that, quite frankly. So while I appreciate that the behavior aspect of this is key, and I hope that it's key for you, and I hope that we appreciate that young people are in school, at the end of the day, our focus is very clearly on closing the achievement gap, no doubt about it. Whether we're doing parent engagement, the teacher education that's coming up, and everything that we do with these kids, it's about closing that achievement gap.
Lisa?
Thank you guys for being here. I didn't know this was going to be pulled down from the consent agenda, so I didn't do my homework, but I want to thank you for the program that you bring for these students. And Sadiqa, you mentioned the question, maybe we're not measuring the right thing. And I think it's the exact same thing we've talked about with our strategic plan, that we need something other than just one single score on an achievement test, on a standardized test, to know how our students are growing. So I love that you said that. I would encourage us to partner with the Urban League and trying to figure out what the better measures are, and ESSA gives us some latitude to be able to do that. And I think part of the problem with the achievement gap is that we are to some extent measuring too narrowly and have this deficit focus instead of a strengths-based focus. So I want to thank you for what you bring. I fully support the Street Academy, and I would love for us to find a way to collaborate to look for a more meaningful measure of achievement and how we close those gaps.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I have one last one, and then we'll take a motion and move this along. I'm going to follow up on one of the things Mr. Brady asked, which is about the scalability of the Street Academy. And I don't want to take this into the Males of Color Academy entirely, but one of the things I've heard, comments since that presentation was this idea that the Street Academy might be a platform that could be analogous to what the Lexington folks described as a public-private partnership or school community organization, in that case, church partnership, that moved the capacity and the understanding along to the point where moving it into a school made sense. And so the question is, how much more could this scale if you got more financial support from the community and more support from JCPS?
Oh, it definitely could scale. I mean, I think that we could very quickly double the numbers with more investment if we had the resources to have other facilitators and other teachers and that sort of thing. I am very, very familiar with the Carter G. Woodson model, and in fact, even before it was ever in any school, and actually have very, very personal connection there that I'm happy to share at any point in time. But I believe in that model, and I think that we could absolutely recreate something very similar to that for our kids here in Jefferson County.
Okay, well, there are a lot of different, threads
Yes.
around that, but if there would be a way to get a report on that, because as I understand the Street Academy, there are multiple locations, and it has always occupied a different place in my mind than the notion of one, kind of central location where a school was started. So clarification on that would be welcome. We don't have to do that tonight.
Okay, that'd be great. And
Thank you for being here.
Thank you all. I really
Great.
do appreciate it.
Is there a motion to, it's item H, I believe. Lisa moves. Is there a second? Okay, Steph seconds. All in favor? Okay. Diane, you're recusing. Right, Diane is a board member of the Urban League, so she's recusing herself.
I'm
So
glad you clarified that. I was wondering why she wasn't voting for
Well,
us.
No, she, yeah.
let me say that I did check with our general counsel, Frank Mellon. He gave me permission to not talk. So this has been very difficult for me. So I am not able to vote for this particular motion because I am a member of the Urban League board.
That's great.
Thank you.
Okay, so it passes 6-0 with 1 abstention. So thank you very much.
Thank you all so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. All right, the consent agenda adopted. The next item is the board planning calendar, which has been available to us to look at. Is there discussion of the planning calendar? Steph.
When I was in Austin, there was a lot of discussion about the connection between the local junior college, Austin Community College, with the local public schools. And they do a lot of dual credit, but also early college, which is having, there is a test to see if you're college ready, and then you're able to begin taking courses, provided transportation, and there is no fee to attend the local community college. So people are graduating at high school at the same time that they're graduating, getting their associate's degree. And there's a lot of excitement and talk about trying to pursue some really exciting connections with JCTC, our local community college. So I'd be very interested in exploring the connection, having the community college president come and see what kind of relationships are going on, learning more, and see how we can strengthen that relationship with JCPS and our local community college as a pipeline to our universities and to the workforce. So maybe working backwards with that new, workforce development application showing, where kids can get jobs in Louisville and what they pay and everything, and working backwards to see how if we have such a, high free and reduced lunch population at JCPS that going directly to university maybe not the smartest financial decision. So if we can create ways to partner with the junior college, whether it be for college or career training, it seems like that would be a discussion that I really think this board could really, bring to the table. I'd love to see us get that on the calendar soon.
Okay, so we'll take that under advisement. The board has received not long ago a report on 55K. The Say Yes initiative is somewhat relevant to this because the alignment between JCPS, the JCTC, and U of L is really important. So, and we also have some state changes, I think, Jonathan, in the dual credit landscape for some of our high schools, which is another relevant piece of this. So I think it's a great idea. The potential of JCPS to lower the cost of college by coordinating better is quite real, but let's package that up and come up with a way to get that on the agenda.
And especially not only dual credit, but early high school college admission, so that there is the ability to provide the transportation necessary to attend and get credit at the junior college or community college. So it that's the new kind of thing. And I think it's going on in a couple schools, but just
Great.
not widely known.
Thanks, Chris.
This is going to be more of a question to possibly spark a conversation more so than just an actual request per se, but it could lead to that. And that is that earlier today we had a work session where we talked about our budget, but one of the attachments to that work session was an attachment called What Can We Learn from the 2016-17 Budget Request and Approvals? And I found that document to be fairly interesting and pretty revealing. I don't know if there's an appetite on the board for having a deeper discussion about that or just receiving this particular document or how, and I'm certainly not going to put Tom on the spot tonight because obviously that'd be something that's kind of a presentation and I'm kind of throwing this out there. But is there any other interest on the board of having maybe possibly a discussion about that at some future point?
So, I will take input from the board members. I would say I also found the document very interesting. I would say my reaction was, Chris and I have been pushing for transparency and understandability of our budgeting process since we got on the board, and that document and the multi-year commitment framework that was offered in there was better by infinity than anything else I think I've seen in terms of a philosophical explanation of what you're trying to work on. So I think it's great. I think the tension in the discussion of how deep do we want to go in the budget is around, on the one hand, we've got, I think, a clear majority of the board saying we want less time in meetings. And the budget cycle is already one of our more significant uses of time. So I guess maybe the way to take that, Chris, would be give input, everybody on the board, and probably also continued pushback on the business and finance team about how can we make the existing budget time more meaningful. I thought that memorandum was really helpful toward that end. So is that responsive?
And then that's actually why I'm asking the question to spark a discussion, because I do know our meeting time is very valuable and we want to try and make it impactful as possible. And that's why I threw it out as a question to kind of gather input from anyone that, would that be something that we would want to do, or are we just satisfied of accepting the attachment?
Well, and one thing, Lisa had a bunch of interesting questions about that. One of the things that surfaced in that dialogue, I think, was the fact that, we called out, I think, about $22 million of Vision 2020 related specific budgetary changes, but there's also an awful lot of action related to Vision 2020 that is not reflected in a financial change, but instead reflected in using the training budget to do different things, or having, you know, the whole deeper learning framework, other than a little bit of consulting time, it's probably not going to be a budget item. It's going to be, you know, so there are big questions about how to understand whether we're actually plowing our resources behind our plan. But I guess I would say let's take it as a, I mean, if people want more budget time, tell me, and we'll get it.
I would just say, you know, I'm certainly been one of the ones pushing for less formal meeting time.
Yep.
But I would imagine that freeing up more time for deeper discussion and
Yep.
Deeper understanding of these issues. So I would absolutely, I mean, this is a different way of presenting the budget. It's a different way for us to think about it, and I think it certainly warrants some more discussion as a group to get our heads around that. You pointed out in that document lots of room for improvement. You know, this was kind of a first shot at it, and so, you know, I'd certainly be interested to hear how we're going to improve it. So I think it's a great discussion topic.
Okay, Chuck?
Yeah, I would agree. It's a great discussion topic. I think one of the key challenges, key responsibilities for a board member is to understand the budget, and that includes the process. And that was a valuable document, and it would definitely be a valuable document for to kind of up-ramp a new board member as well, and the orientation process would be very helpful. So.
Okay. All right, Linda?
Just one thing. Dr. Harkins gave us a 90-day plan concerning the things that she wanted to address from the evaluation. And you know, last year we started those executive sessions, kind of interim evaluation type
Yep.
things. Do you think we could kind of spread that out and then just take a look at it at 30 and 60
Can you
and 90?
pull the mic up just a little bit? I can't quite hear you.
I say, do you think we could take a look at her plan in 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days, and give her a chance to explain progress on that?
So
30.
Yeah, I think what we sort of informally tried to do last time was to have maybe quarterly-ish interim, you know, formative
Right.
feedback sessions, and
Well, it could
your
be,
suggestion is let's have them more frequently?
no, really, I mean, 45 days, 90 days if we wanted to do that. But I think she went to all that trouble to
Yep.
to write that up, and I think
Okay.
it'd be great to give her a chance to talk about where she is on it.
So, okay, why don't we just take that as a, you know, let's assume we'll have an executive session after the next meeting, and then see where we go from there.
All right.
Does that work? Okay, good suggestion. Anybody else? Okay, is there a motion to receive the planning calendar? Chris moves, Linda seconds, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Board reports, are there board reports?
My very brief report is in writing, but I also want to invite anyone who's interested. I've got a community conversation coming up this Monday night, Newburgh Middle School, 6 p.m. to 7:30. All are welcome.
Thank you. Chris?
Just real quick, I didn't have a chance to put this in writing, but this past weekend was Fern Creek's homecoming, Fern Creek High School. They were victorious on Friday, but the Alumni Association had some really great events. On Saturday, had a breakfast in which I was able to grab a quiche that was made by Brent Peters and Joe Franzen's food lit class, and it was excellent, by the way. And on Sunday, I was available to see the Hall of Fame induction ceremony for some of their alumni. It was a fantastic weekend, and I also just want to give thanks to Joey Bailey, who is the executive director of the Alumni Association, as well as to the Principal Meyer out there in Fern Creek for their hospitality and their invitation. It was just really a fantastic way of seeing a really strong alumni association also interacting and supporting student achievement within the school. The Alumni Association given over $1.2 million back to that school, and it's just really, really very a nice thing to see and witness. So that's my report.
Okay, thanks. Chuck?
I'll be brief too. Lisa, you carry the banner very well, and make sure you get a printed report. I'm impressed. I didn't get mine out this time, but I want to I want to say congratulations to Western High School, who they've been putting together some time now an alumni association, and there's a rich history in that school. So I hope that that's a really active alumni association, and I'm sure a principal will find great ways for them to plug in. I want to thank the Brown School for an invite to tour their school. I really enjoyed that with Dr. Parsons and Brian Garrett too. So those were some of the visits that I had recently.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Steph?
I had an opportunity to participate in the steering committee for the master plan for arts for this community. It's been an ongoing endeavor. I know Diane, Ms. Porter had talked about it, so I won't, go into great detail, but it's really an exciting situation. Also traveling to Austin to see, they have a district-wide arts facility, which was just a fabulous idea, and with the artistic director, they hold district-wide productions, and they also have it open to the community. So you all have some pictures to share. I will try to post them. It's just a really interesting utilization. They also have district-wide regional athletic facilities that they are able to have some, basketball arenas, just kind of like the one at Valley, have a couple more around town to really provide regional utilization. The other thing that I did was a community conversation. It was in a new way, and it was that I had a booth at the fair. I think that I know it could be a model for the fall. There's so many fairs going on all over town, and to come to people instead of going to a school asking people to come to me, I went out to the public, and hundreds and thousands of people were going by, and they would stop, and they were very positive about JCPS. It was very refreshing to hear positive feedback and how they love their school, and they also gave us some good feedback. Donna was with me about things that they didn't like, and it was a constructive conversation. So I do think that providing the support to the board to be able to pull off multiple events like that at like Fairdale, it was the same weekend, and I think the Gaslight Festival is going on. Do you know what I mean? So it's next weekend, there's all these different festivals, but to have kind of kits for board members just to be able to show up with the table and all the marketing material and everything, rather than me hauling my own chairs and my own table and kind of ad hoc putting things together. As a board member, to get the support that we really need for this, huge, massive district with 150 schools, the board just really, I think, could use, to have a little bit more support so we can really come out to you in a more modern way. So that's, my report was very positive, but as a board member, I do see a real call out for more support to enable that outreach.
Ms. Duncan?
Well, I'll just mention and express my appreciation to Dr. Harkins for taking part in the parade and helping pass out the candy and listening to the comments all along the way. And at the fair, she stayed there with me until just before the rain, and then she managed to head out of there. She had good anticipation of the weather there. But those conversations are just priceless, because those people, they stop and they will tell you things that they wouldn't call you about, but they will tell you things. And Dr. Harkins made notes and got back with them, and it's just a great chance to interact with the public that way. And I know Chris and I are scheduled to attend 5th Region KSBA meeting this week, so mention that.
Good. Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much. That concludes our board reports, and we do not need a motion on that. Next, there are 2 persons requesting to address the board on non-agenda items. The first is Gay Adelman. Gay Adelman, wants to talk about a topic called The Playbook Has Been Written. Ms. Adelman, you know you have 3 minutes. After 2.5, the bell will sound once, and after 3, the bell will sound twice, indicating that your time is up. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you. As you see, I'm in my football play attire. The playbook has been written, and it's a timely topic because it relates to some of the things that Mr. Brady was asking about, some of the presentations we heard tonight. I'm going to start with an excerpt from an article that was written by Diane Ravitch. It's entitled, How Billionaires Are Successfully Fooling Us into Destroying Public Education and Why Privatization is a Terrible Idea. The billionaire-backed privatization movement is stealthily advancing an undemocratic agenda, cloaked in deceptive rhetoric that the public is not aware of and does not understand. Something unprecedented is happening to America in public education. A powerful, well-funded, well-organized movement is seeking to privatize significant numbers of public schools and destroy the teaching profession. This movement is not a conspiracy. It operates in the open, but its goals are masked by deceptive rhetoric. It calls itself a reform movement, but its true goal is privatization. This movement has had strange bedfellows. Some of its funders and promoters on the far right of the political spectrum are motivated by ideological contempt for the public sector. Others earnestly believe they are providing better choices for poor children trapped in failing schools. Still others believe that elected school boards are incompetent and should be replaced by private management, or that the private sector is inherently more innovative and effective than the public sector. And some are motivated by greed, while others are motivated by religious conviction. These strange bedfellows have included the Department of Education, major foundations and think tanks, both conservative and centrist, billionaires committed to free market solutions, and certain they know what is best because they are so rich, entrepreneurs hoping to make money from school privatization or by selling technology to replace teachers. The far right, American Legislative Exchange Control, ALEC as we know it, which has drafted model legislation to promote corporate interests and to expand the privatization of almost all government services, including education, and numerous governors and legislators, mostly but not exclusively Republicans who want schools to operate in the free market system of school choice. I brought props. I have with me the playbook, The Destruction of Public Education Playbook by Ed Reformers. In it, it says, defund public education. Well, we've already started doing that. Our state led the way in that, but we've missed opportunities to raise taxes and some other things, so we're doing more with less. Test and punish. Demoralize teachers instead of praising them. Pay teachers less. We tried to freeze teacher salaries, didn't we? Bust unions. Oh, we brought in a union-busting lawyer with our last teacher pay freeze. Cater to business leaders instead of parents and students. Don't ask teachers what they need to be successful. Let's listen to Bill Gates and GLI, and let's have a CAT, Community Advisory Team, that made up of various members.
Thank you, Ms. Adelman.
I will post the rest online because I did not finish.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Reese Hamilton. Reese Hamilton on comprehensive sex education. You also have 3 minutes. One bell will sound after 2.5 and 2 after 3, indicating your time is up, and thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you. Dr. Hargens, Ms. Porter, Mr. Jones Jr., Ms. Horn, Mr. Hadaway, Ms. Duncan, Dr. Wilner, and Mr. Brady, thank you. In the last year, I have seen a shift in the board from one that did not know the state of sex education in JCPS to a board that is concerned and is working to make sure that all students have rights and access to the same information. You are a board that is holding schools accountable to not only knowing the state standards, but enforcing them as well. As we know, the state standards are vague and have left administrators and teachers unsure of their role. We thank you for standing up for our students' health and their sex education. Your attention has shown us that you care about our concerns, our causes, and your individual districts. I've seen tears, I've seen determination, progress, and upset, and I've seen you guys work hard. As school board members, you're charged with the protection of the future of America. I can only imagine how heavy that feels. Again, thank you. I stand in front of you today in support of Louisville Sex Education Now, as I have done before. I've heard some of you publicly acknowledge this need. We appreciate the recognition from Dr. Wilner, Mr. Jones Jr., Mr. Brady, as well as the recognition from the superintendent's report. We will continue to come to these meetings and canvass your districts and meet with teachers and administrators until we have a unanimous acknowledgement of support on this need. We are deeply encouraged by the work that you've done in the last few weeks and are eager to see where it goes. And I wrote this speech before, but just to go rogue, we want to sit at that table. We want to be where Hope was today, and we want to field your questions, and we have the answers. We just need the opportunity, and the students deserve it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This concludes our public speakers. There is no executive session needed this evening, so I believe we are ready for a motion to adjourn. Chris moves. Okay, Diane seconds. Diane, thank you again, and what a wonderful opportunity to be here at Lincoln. It's fantastic. Thank you. All right. I guess all in favor, aye. We're adjourned.